Welcome to HortTube, where we talk all things gardening. My name is Jim Putnam, and this is episode 4 in my Backyard Plant Propagation series. In this episode, I'm going to get the clock programmed and installed and get the irrigation running properly. Okay, here's the basics of this clock. First of all, you have to put a 9-volt battery in it, and that's actually just a programming backup and allows you to program it while it's not plugged in, but it won't actually run the valve. We still have to plug it in. I'll show you that in a minute. When you open the cover on this thing, it just has 4 buttons, and the time is really easy to set. As you can see on here, it's a Tuesday at 11:16 in the morning. When we hit this button on the left, it allows us to pick which valve we're programming. Of course, we only have 1 valve on this system, so that's on number 1. And then if we continue to go down, it goes to duration. And that's the beauty of this clock, is we can program it to come on for hours, minutes, or seconds. And that's what's important here. We're only going to have this thing coming on for 5 seconds at the time. We go down 1 more, and this is on days, and this is what days you want to irrigate. We don't want to just have it come on certain days of the week. We actually want to have it come on every few minutes. And that's the beauty of this thing. If you hit this right button, it allows us to change that. And we can go up and up and up and up. And this will come on once every hour. And if we go all the way up to 24 hours, it'll start on days. But we want to go way, way down and have this thing come on. We're going to leave it right there at 5 minutes. It's going to come on every 5 minutes, and we know we just set it for 5 seconds. And then we have over here on the side right here, we have, this is a cyclical irrigation that's going to come on every day at 8 a.m. And if we'll go to the next one, it's going to be going off at 6 p.m. And I'll just hit this a couple more times, and we're back to our current date and time. We've got this thing coming on 7 days a week, 8 o'clock in the morning, going off at 6 o'clock. It comes on every 5 minutes and runs for 5 seconds each time. And that should be completely adequate. We may change that to coming on every 7 minutes for 6 seconds. We'll just have to figure that out when we see how hot it is in this house later in the summer. So the next things we need to know about this clock are on the inside here. You'll see it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That is our valves. If we had that many valves, we're only going to have 1 on this system. We'll need a tiny little straight screwdriver. Up here at the top on the left, there's an M beside that one. That's for a master valve. That's for if we were going to run a pump and we needed to start the pump in order to get the water flowing. That would be if we were going to run a well or something like that. We're not, obviously don't need anything like that. And then there's 2 that have C next to them. That's the common wire. Every valve has 2 wires on it. One of them will get wired back to the common, and the other one to its individual valve number. Obviously, we're going to have valve number 1, and we're going to have 1 common wire. If we had multiple valves, one of the wires on each of the valves, and it doesn't matter which wire, they all get wired together and go to the common. And then the other wire on each valve goes to one of these numbers. Very easy. And then we have the AC right here. That's where our power is going to get wired into. And then there's a sensor spot right here. We can have a water sensor on this one. We're not going to use that at all. The clock is not waterproof, and I actually want to have it near the little hoop house and not in my garage or anything, so I needed some sort of waterproof box. This box right here, which was quite expensive at one time, was on clearance. I guess you can't sell a $50 waterproof plastic box, so I got it very inexpensive. I mounted the back bracket for the clock onto it right here, so that just pops into place. The nicest thing about this one is it has this outlet, and I had a electric cord that had a damaged end on it, so I wired that in here. So we're going to have 2 outlets. I'll have the outlet for the clock, and I'm also going to put a small exhaust fan in this hoop house, and that's going to allow us to plug that in. I'm going to put this very close to it, but this is a very nice box that will keep the weather out and allow us easy access to the clock. So what I was able to accomplish on this week is, number 1, I replaced this valve. When I took this one off, it actually had a pebble in it, and that was my fault. I should have flushed this line before I put the valve on. That was totally my fault. I did have a replacement valve for it though that has a flow control in the middle of it right here. It has the thumb screw to turn it on and off like the other one did, but it also has a flow control that I can adjust the pressure. And I actually have a little too much pressure for these 4 heads, so I'm gonna be able to dial that down. If I add additional heads to it, I can readjust that and turn it back up. So I actually like this valve. After that, I mounted the clock up here on this fence post. It's very sturdy. This should keep the clock out of the elements. Then I wired the valve to the clock. All that's left on the clock installation is to wire this valve back to the clock. One of them is going to be the common wire, and we'll run it to the little C on the clock. I'm going to use the white wire for that. And if I put multiple valves on this, I'll put white on each of them. That way I'll know which is which. I put these together with a wire nut that has silicone inside of it. These are really nice little connectors. They don't cost very much, but they're basically waterproof, and I can leave them sitting right out here on top of the ground and not worry about them. I'm going to use this green for this one. This will be wired to the little number 1 inside the clock for valve number 1. Wire gets fed through the bottom of this box like this. Take the cover off of that. Open up number 1 here. Now for our common wire. I've left enough wire so that I can hold this in my hand, program it, and then slide it back in here like this. I'll bury this wire in between here and here. The clock has the ability to manually turn it on, so I'm going to do that now. Should start here in the next minute or two and start running our cycles. Okay, see, it's going to come on like this. It's going to run for 5 seconds. There it is. Now it'll be every 5 minutes. Somebody asked me the question the other day about the heat and being in the sun like this. I am going to install an exhaust fan right here, and I have that other outlet on that for it. That's one thing. The other thing is this involves something called evaporative cooling. As this water that's on these leaves in this house actually evaporate, it actually cools the air around it. So what you'll find is if you take the temperature in this house up here, from about here up to here, it may be 120 degrees potentially in the middle of the summer in this house. But from here down, we're going to keep it in the 80s in all likelihood by having this irrigation come on so frequently and have that constant evaporation working for us. What I've actually done here is really built a small commercial greenhouse that could be scaled up. It has all the different components of that, and when I get this fan installed, it really will be just a scaled down commercial greenhouse. Not everybody's going to build this kind of project in their backyard for rooting cuttings. This would be more for somebody who wanted to root, a couple hundred cuttings and then pot them up and possibly resell them. Also realize that there's some people that just want to propagate or root 2 hydrangeas from their grandmother's hydrangea plant, or root something that's in their yard for their neighbor or something like that. So I'm also going to be putting in 2 additional very scaled down versions of backyard propagation techniques, and I'm going to do that in the next episode. I'm going to delay putting the plastic on this because it's going to be a little while before we start cuttings, and I want to monitor this water. It's very important that we know that this thing's going to run the way we want it to run very consistently, because I don't want to put stuff in there and have it go wrong, because you just have to replace them. But so in the next episode, I'm going to show you 2 very scaled down techniques that will get you started, and we'll get a lower percentage using different techniques than this. This is going to just should give us the biggest percentage, and that'll, oh, this is interesting. It's coming on right now and going off. It's working absolutely perfectly. It came on for 5 seconds or 4 seconds there, and it'll do it again in 5 minutes. So that was a perfect example of that. Actually kind of startled me. Thank you for watching this video, and if it was helpful, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for future videos. I'll be back next Thursday to show you some more about backyard propagating. Thanks for watching.